resilient teams, how to use this opportunity to develop resilience. But I want to come on quick and just talk about ways in which you as an individual can make sure that you are mining these experiences to fuel your evolution. And part of evolution is continuing to enhance your capacity for more that's sustainable, that isn't just muscling my way through, or heroics, or I'm the one that had the most trauma in the past and can overfunction the best in the future. That is not quality of life. That's not a way to live. So I'm going to wait for some people to join us. We've got a few eyeballs coming in. Comment if you're here. Give us your questions as well. I have a bit of a topic, but I would love to connect with all of you as well. And I think that I assumed that a lot of people were working their own kind of resilience formula or program. And what I'm finding more and more that the current times are revealing to us is the state of our own self-care versus self-soothing, the state of our own resiliency, and how we enhance our capacity to move smoothly and skillfully through challenging times. So peacefully walk through life. Life's messy, but you can still live happy, which is the name of my new book coming out in April. It's all set to be published. I've got it all done. So, oh, fantastic. Hello. Jackie is here from New Mexico. I have a light in my eyes because I'm in the studio. So I'm going to increase my brilliant here. Oh, there we go. Oh, hi, Tina. Miss Maria's on. Love you guys. It's a great topic to keep top of mind. Absolutely, Cindy. It's so good to see all of you joining, and we're getting a lot of numbers. And so many times resiliency is like, I am the strongest. I can muscle through. I'm the most persevering. I love Glennon Doyle. She's like, we can do hard things. And that is part of resiliency, the ability to push yourself farther than you thought you could go. And after being properly trained for a marathon in that 21st mile when you hit the wall, such a good use of that type of resiliency. But resiliency would not be running a marathon without training and risking injury that could affect you lifelong. So it's a wonderful conversation to have, because last time I talked about resiliency, or I think 2 times ago, getting weaponized. It's just so misunderstood. And resiliency isn't when we lack planning or readiness, like let's throw bodies at it and let's disregard the well-being. I have a phrase I've said to myself lately a lot. Sai, you're not the power source, you're a toaster. Meaning that I don't come with my own battery packs. I come with a plug-in, and I'm not able to produce if I'm not plugging into energy sources and really paying attention to what's energy building and what's depleting, and to stop outsourcing my emotional well-being. Like, why do people expect me to, no. Why do I agree to deliver without conditions? Like, so many of us are really outsourcing our emotional well-being. And so resiliency and your capacity for it is actually a measurement of how well you're doing minding your own brain health and your own mental health and your own physical health and your own social health. It really, your level of resiliency is a statement around how skillfully you're moving through a messy world. And if you are having to lose sleep to produce, or you're having to compromise and then carry resentment to get what you want or get done what you want to get done, that's not a sustainable formula. And resiliency is not about polarity, like I will get it done, I will give, but I will lose. It's just not a win-lose game. It's not a prisoner's dilemma. Resiliency is about tapping into something higher and bigger and actually building capacity and having more direct lines into energy sources, and knowing how to not be a self-producer, but knowing how to appropriately tap into resources and the collective that is our genius, and just being a conduit to deliver that. And I think that's the biggest key, is that we're trying to see resiliency as an individual characteristic. And while it's a competency, it is the competency to tap into the collective, which then appears like you're able to do a lot, but you're doing it effortlessly. And I used to get asked all the time, like, Sai, how do you do it all? And they were looking at me like I'm a superhuman. And it never dawned on me, because it was such a off-putting question, where it's like, I don't know that I do it all more than somebody else. But then I started to really look at my habits and my dedications, and how little energy I spent on judgment and drama, and how little energy I spent getting hooked by my ego. My ego still judges, folks, but I'm very aware and just notice it in the moment without participating. How many ways I didn't let my energy get siphoned off, how many ways I did about the future and how this would all turn out, not even my business. I write books, I publish them. From there on, they're the creation of the world to add or respond to or grow from there. Like when I publish, how that book does in the world, how what its life is, just isn't even my business. And so if you look at your overall energy and all the places it leaks out of you, in your judgment and your worry about the future and your attachment to the past, and it's very hard to move through the next skillfully when you're hanging on to the past and worried about the future. And, anytime you're exhausted, I would tell you, anytime you're feeling not in energy, you're in a place that I call the not now. Like in the now, you always have all that you need at the time that you need it. And you have the information you need. Like, I should go to sleep now. But anyway, resiliency for the individual, I wanted to kind of go through, how do you build resiliency? And resiliency is really the ability to emerge from difficult circumstances or challenges or unpreferred reality, evolved instead of traumatized. It doesn't mean you won't be impacted. In fact, the impact is often the birthing. My favorite poet, David White, often says, when you're facing what seems like an obstacle, it is really just a closed door you haven't knocked on yet or been courageous enough to go through. And for me in my life, so many times I get right up to that door and then I go back into some old ways, because to move through the door, as David White says, you will not survive. And how joyful that is. You will not survive. Something of you must die. Your old identity must die in order to move with resiliency and effortlessness into the next. And it is many times not doing the hard physical or stamina work. It is doing the hard emotional and integration work, where you're willing to let go of an identity that no longer serves you and walk more freely into what's next. It's a constant kind of releasing. It's a constant being willing to have you as you are today not survive. And most of us are really not that good at dying in that way. We want to carry it all with us. We want to come through these times intact. And it is that unwillingness to not survive it, to have ourselves be a completely changed or somewhat changed person, that is exhausting us. So that is one thing. But resiliency is the ability to emerge evolved, and it's like the ability to conserve your energy through acceptance and really steer clear of this wish that things were different, or that you really could continue with it all. And so there's really 5 things that I'm paying attention to in my own resilience. And resiliency isn't the ability just to do hard things. It's the capacity to manage your own energy and to move through the world without being put off center or drained. So it has a lot more to do with being than doing. And I see Jared got on. Hi, Jared. Jared Narlock, amazing author. And he talks about peaceful powered leadership, that this isn't about our doing, this is about our being. This isn't about the arriving, it's about how we prefer to travel. Our goal, we can't control where we're going to arrive most of the time, I'm just telling you, but we can certainly really make sure that the way we travel is a peaceful and with attention to our well-being. So if you want to really focus on your resiliency, the first step is anytime you're feeling disruption or some anxiety or some stress come in, okay, that you're feeling off center, the first thing always is tend to the basics. Really get down to the basics and double down on your habits and dedications that are about self-care. Now, if it's a weekly massage and you've done that for years, like I have, that self-care. If it's, I'm so stressed, I'll take a spa day and try and postpone the stress or numb out for the day, that's self-soothing. If it is escaping or numbing or prolonging or procrastinating, like I'll feel that stress tomorrow, but tonight I'm gonna have a glass of wine, that's self-soothing. Self-care are the daily, weekly, monthly habits and dedications that we have that we don't do perfectly, right? That just continue to restore and build our capacity. So moving your body and making sure that you're staying not just strong, but capable from an ability to like move through the world and not get winded. But also that you're flexible, because a lot of people, when they look at working out, they want to just build strength. And you also need to build endurance, but you also need to build flexibility. Why? In life, there's sometimes you have to tap into inner strength. In resilience, there's times that you have to use flexibility to get through difficult situations. And there's times that you will stop breathing in an effort to muscle through. And so if you've practiced endurance, you've got to be a really skilled breather. So movement, making sure you're fueling your body with nutrition and hydration that sets it up for success. Like you can't, sounds so silly, you can't drive your car without gas. And so many of us, when we get into self-soothing, we fill our body with chemicals rather than with nutrients. And so that's really important. Sleep, the ability to allow your brain and to reset and to integrate, during dreaming what it's done for the day is so important. Meditation, the practice of unhooking from your own ego on a regular basis, it's like shooting free throws during practice, hundreds of them, so that time in the game, when you're on the line at the final moment, you don't miss the thing, because it's not like I have to think my way through it. It's like muscle memory. So when you're stressed, we want to skip our workouts to conserve our energy. And that is like limiting yourself from the energy source, when what you want to do is movement begets movement, nutrition begets, higher functioning. You want to double down on those habits. And that's a form of radical simplification that you really have to say, everything else out until I do the basics. And I double down on my habits, and it's good sleep hygiene. It's getting plenty of sleep, plenty of hydration, plenty of meditation. Now, the time to start these things is not during a pandemic, although some of you have, and good for you. The best time to start these things is before you need them, right? And it's so interesting to me that we try and use these things as like a pill rather than a foundation. And a lot of people are like, I meditated once, it didn't work. But meditation isn't like, if I want to get wet, it's not walking out in a snowstorm or a rainstorm. Meditation is like, I want to get wet, and so I walk through mist often, and before I know it, my clothes are saturated. And I may not even have sensed the getting wet part, but I'm showing up in misty places often, and the accumulated effect is amazing. Now, this doesn't mean you shouldn't start or redo, but I'll never forget when I found myself completely alone, like during COVID. So we weren't going out. I wasn't connecting I didn't know my neighbors. And I was in Mexico solo with my own mind, 3 months. I called my yoga teacher and I'm like, oh my God, it's me. And I have like 3 books and an iPad and a computer. And it's like, I'm here indefinitely. And his response to me is, Sai, this is why we practice. And I was like, oh, he's like, you've practiced years for this. You've been solo on the mat for years. Like, this is why we practice. And so get to the basics and really double down those habits that help you move through the world peacefully as your best self. And how do you know when you need to double down? Anytime you're not your best self, when you're irritable or you handled something poorly, just double down on tend to yourself first. And then the second thing is connect with others. And most of the time we think resiliency is I do it myself. I kick all of you out so I can think. I kick all of you out so I'm not distracted while I do all the work. Like that is the folly of the ego to capture you. Like I'm the smartest person in the room and I'm the only one that can do this. And now I have to do everything. The ego loves that stuff because it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. When you don't ask for help, no one helps you. You're like, see? No one came to my rescue. Well, right. So the most counterintuitive thing that you will do is, I love that, Cindy, on the mat helps with off the mat, definitely. One of the most counterintuitive things you will do is when you're feeling low energy is to actually connect with others. People are like, the last thing I want to do after a hard day's work is call a friend. I'm like, then change the conversations you're having with friends. Don't call a friend to vent. Don't call, that's self-soothing. Call a friend to just be vulnerable. Dang, I just need to reach out. I've had a day that kind of kicked my butt and I made a bunch of mistakes and it was just kind of a crappy dappy day and I just wanted to reach out to you. Now, make sure that you curate the friends in your life so they don't collude with you and they don't, jump in to try and fix your problems. That they just go, oh my gosh, I'm glad that you called. Let me love you up. Sai, you're awesome. Anything that's come your way will just grow you. Like, I'm here for you. Like that way of loving up first. And then those friends call me up. They support me, but they challenge me. And when appropriate, they say, you know what? I might have some simple instructions for you. And this is where I have to follow those simple instructions. But I've got to start crowdsourcing. I've got to call and be vulnerable and say, I'm alone and it's not feeling amazing. I don't need you to fix me or take my feelings away. I need you to be with me. And then when it's an appropriate time, like to be a thought partner or to be a good crowdsource, one data point that you can say, have you tried this? And I will tell you, if you're an ego, everything someone suggests, you'll be like, that will never work. That's too simple. That's ridiculous. I tried that back in 1989. There's no way that. And so I called somebody recently and they're like, have you ever done breath work? And I'm like, yeah, I've done breath work. And they're like, well, let's do some now. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure breathing's not going to help this issue. And they're like, well, how would you know? And it just dawned on me, I have to follow the simple instructions. The universe conspires in your favor. If you call somebody and they say breath work, and that's the first time you've heard of it in 20 years, it might be what you need. And if not, what's the harm? So you have to start listening to the simple instructions, but reaching out helps ease the individual burden and puts your work out in the collective. And what you learn, if nothing else, is that there are no new stories and there is no new suffering and it's all self-imposed and that you're part of the human race. So when I reach out, it's usually putting my hero cape down and rejoining the human race, right? And if nothing else, I just call up and I go, feeling pretty human right now. Don't need anything except just wanted somebody to know that, I'm not preferring the reality I'm in. And a lot of times I don't say anything and I go, and so I think what I should just do is just feel the feelings. If I'm stuck, I just need to grieve and quit thinking. And it's amazing what you open up to when you just ask for help. Anne Lamott, one of my favorite authors, she said there's only 3 prayers: thank you, wow, and help. Like, it's like there's only 3 prayers. And if you're not saying thank you, this is awesome, or wow, this is unbelievable, then you're saying like help, right? Bad behavior and bad habits never make a situation better. Nancy, gosh, so much wisdom. See, when you just reach out to the chat, sometimes I'll just like open my chat and have them teach the class. So connect with others and then dare to try what they tell you, something new, something that has no chance of working. Just dare to try something new. Just pause. And for the moment, right, just be willing. And this is the point, to check your willingness. Like, a lot of us don't want help. We want to complain. And that's where our ego gets us involved with suffering instead of relief. Like, that's why I say suffering a lot of times self-imposed. But if you're tending to the basics, you're connecting with others, the other thing to do is to radically simplify. Just get to the bare basics, just the bare basics. And as you've radically simplified, be willing to follow simple instructions and try, incomplete ideas. Try things that aren't well thought out. Try things that, aren't perfect. Like, really be willing to try imperfect ideas or suggestions. Like, you don't have to adopt them for your life, but just be willing to implement some things to see what the real world says about them and not what your bias says about them. So it's like, this is the time to be open and willing and really make things work is the source of innovation at times. Now, it might not be sustainable, but it is empowering to say, in that moment, we can do hard things. Now, it may not be sustainable. It may require too much energy, or it may be too based on individuals, but resist this whole optimizing before I even standardize. Like, just try the basics, and you probably don't need to come up with those. It's the collective genius, and really use crowdsourcing to get there. And then now that you've radically simplified and you're making some basics work, right? Now is the time that before you bring something into your life, really question, is it energy building or energy depleting? Really work on your boundaries, being not rigid and not porous, but flexible. Really question everything. What has the situation revealed to me? What did I learn about myself in this moment? How can I integrate and contemplate this learning so I can move forward more skillfully? Like, what, not only just what my part in this is, but how I can evolve next. What has this revealed to me is a big question, because what am I learning about myself? And the way you make sense of what happened in the past without the storyline being you're a victim is to be able to look at the points of choice or your behavior, even if it was an unconscious childhood thing you brought with you. It's not about who's to blame, but it's the willingness to unpack your tendencies and decide whether you want to live with those tendencies and the effect on your quality of life going forward. And so it's like, what has this revealed to me? And in that state of question everything, and really making sure, like, you're not pining for the past, making sure you're willing to just like let go and go on. And that question everything in terms of what you add back in, but also self-reflection, is profound. I was listening to David White, and he talks about you will not survive this next walk through the next, what was a barrier, but now is opportunity, alive. And it was like, what identity are you just not willing to let go of? And all of a sudden, I had so many identities come to mind that really fit that. And one identity, because I'm moving here to the Baja, and I'm going to work from here because they have a fantastic airport, and I'm just really curating the life I want, is, I came to the Baja to heal. And that identity was like healing girl in Baja. And I'm like, you know what? That's not true. I've been heading to the Baja for 30 years, you guys. I've been coming down here every chance I could get for 30 years. And when I came here, some things fell away. There are some things that didn't follow that require some healing attention. But I'm not the identity of the girl who needed to go to the Baja to heal. I'm the identity of girl who went to the Baja, has healing to do because some things didn't follow, but girl who's like creating awesome new life. And the minute I was able to let that part of the past go and really step into like, what do I do next? That's when you get to the last stage, which is so important for resiliency, which is curating the life you desire. To take the time to ask you, what's fulfilling to you, and then start making choices based on that fulfillment. And a lot of things have to go by the wayside. Am I willing for people to be wrong about me to live the life I desire? What does my soul crave? And why don't I quit outsourcing that to, my staff or a partner or my clients? Like, why don't I work on fulfilling that for myself and quit outsourcing my emotional well-being? Because we all do it. So resilience is a big part of accountability. And when you tend to the basics and get connected with others, and you really dare to try new things, and you really start to reflect and question and get intentional and conscious, and then really look at what's fulfilling for you and what you want to create, you get out of, should I quit my job or keep my job? It doesn't even matter, because when you're focused on resiliency, the things that no longer serve you fall away, and the things that will serve you next are just put in your path. I don't know how that works, but it works. But our focus right now, whether it's on mental health and emotional well-being and accountability is just not outsourcing your emotional well-being any longer, but it really requires you to move through the world differently, not externally focused and muscling through and martyr and just delivering what people expect of you and overfunctioning and all of that. None of that. It is much more conscious, much more intentional, and exciting. So, Gloria, I love that you're here from San Diego. I always want your questions and comments. I'm so happy that so many of you have joined us, and just do the basics, double down on self-care, reach out to others, and really curate the group you're reaching out to, even if it's your Instagram feed, and really make sure that you're open to try things that you've ignored in the past or you've downgraded in the past. Really question everything. And this is such an amazing time for us all to allow ourselves to be undone and emerge an evolved human being, a better person for yourself and for others. Please share in our work. It's at Cy Wakeman. Our newsletter is sign up. It's info@CyWakeman. We'll get you signed up, or you can go to realitybasedleadership.com. We are loving putting out fun content. This will be automatically saved on a lot of platforms. And be well. And we will be back probably next week. So, oh my gosh, Nancy, you must learn to be the caregiver of your own soul and the souls of others. Thanks for adding that, because that's the next chapter, right? Is if I can keep my energy level and then I can stable, then I can give, not out of over giving, which builds resentment, but out of true generosity. So much of this, you guys, I talk about in the new book, Life's Messy, Live Happy, coming out April 22nd. So we'll bug the heck out of you for pre-sale, but so good to have you on. We've got some great podcasts coming your way. We started up a new season. Some of you are asking, and Frank Calderone's book, Upstanding, all about company character, came out this week. It's on my podcast. It's a must. Erica Dewan is talking about digital communication, and she's on mind-blowing. Her work is amazing. And I've got a lot of other great people coming up on the podcast that I think you're really going to love. So thank you and be well.